Little training reminder is about really having faith in the system. What I really recommend you do is learn the training and execute the action list, and then start really customizing later. Once you start doing a lot of deals, you're going to have your own thoughts on your listing presentation and many other things. But this training is built so you just kind of follow the steps. If you do these actions, you're going to hit your financial goals. We've already seen agents doing that in a way. So I know it's a little bit overwhelming, and some of you have had your own ideas of how to do this business, but what I would recommend is just kind of take a deep breath, follow the system, and execute, and you're going to start to see really great results. So today, training on managing your listings like a superstar, the keys, the insights, understanding seller emotions, the overpriced death spiral and how to avoid it, how superstars have the mindset of managing their listings, how to use a showing log, which is what we just kind of talked about in Salesforce. So we're going to talk about how we do it in Excel, and obviously probably can eliminate that, another piece of busy work as we refine Salesforce, how to deal with a buyer's agent, how to set up a price reduction and get it, and dialogue. So this is what I recommend you do for the training, is you take on the mindset that you're already a dominant listing agent and you've got like 10 listings. So when you talk about agents that are in that mode and you look at their pipeline, they might have 4 or 5 escrows closing this month. Their income's going to be 80 grand this month. They've got 10 listings, 12 listings, 15 listings, a whole bunch in escrow. Who are those people? They're super busy and they're making serious cash, right? That's the mindset you need to start from right now, because that's the mindset of how you manage sellers. How we also train how you manage to lead buyers to buy instead of the other way around. You treat the sellers with the same kind of mindset that you have to manage them and manage your listings. So this is a pretty interesting training from that standpoint. Major keys to managing listings. Number 1, frequent communication. If you took this to heart, we could stop the training and all go home, because this is the key, frequent communication. If I had all the 15 trainings spread across the wall, that's the common theme. It's a common theme to your database. It's a common theme to your buyers. It's a common theme to your sellers. It's a common theme to Thrive merchants, etc. We have to be great communicators. As we saw in last week's training, great communication skills is your number 1 asset, your number 1 skill. Second to that is your negotiation skills or deal-making skills. But this is the real secret to managing sellers and listings, is frequent communication, which we'll understand today. Number 2, understand that it's about managing the sellers emotionally. Emotionally. Understand that silence is deadly. Meaning if you lose contact with your sellers, your listings for long periods of time, what happens? Their imagination starts to run. And that's your enemy. Number 4 is use a showing log. And it's a log for you, but it also becomes a great tool in managing your sellers and getting price reductions. And you partner with your seller, both facing the market. Most agents have a fearful relationships with sellers when listings are stagnating, when they're not selling. It's like, I dread calling that seller. It's 90 days. I haven't sold a house. It's not getting shown. Who wants to call the seller and deliver bad news, right? That's how most agents deal with this. That's not the way to do this. And the evidence to this is some of my greatest clients and sources of referrals were listings that expired. And I relisted them and sold them because I was partners with them. And the reason they expired they didn't look at me as bad news. Because of the way I managed them during the listing, they were just overwhelmed. And they were of the mindset, I'll never do business with anybody else. They knew it wasn't my issue because I was in total communication with them. And we looked at the market as what's outside. Here's my seller and me. We are partners. We're going to get this done. And I'm going to stay in contact with you, and we're going to process this information together. That way he doesn't go, Scott, it's your fault. There's nothing that's my fault. We're on the same page from day one. So this is a key thing, the whole mindset. Insights. Sometimes you have to let them vent on occasion. Then ensure that your seller feels that they've been heard and you have a plan that will solve their frustration. Your game plan should be scheduled updates by phone no less frequently than weekly. You should email feedback as soon as it comes in or soon thereafter. And if you avoid your sellers, the silent treatment allows their fears to creep in. Let's go back to number one, let them vent on occasion. Why would that happen quite frequently in a listing? Is because sometimes buyers insult them. They happen to be there coming and going, or they hear a buyer's comment or a buyer's agent's comment about their home. It's not a house. To them, it's a home. They get insulted. Or when buyers on occasion will drive up for a scheduled showing, look at the outside of the house, tell their agent I don't even want to go in. They feel insulted. They want to vent. Who do they vent to? You. Let them vent. It's okay, because we're their partner. More insights. When buyers reject their home, the sellers feel personally rejected. You don't feel personally rejected. You don't own that home. They do. So you have to understand, when you're managing sellers, it's a very emotional experience for them, particularly if they've raised their kids, if they've been in a house a long time, they've raised their kids there, etc. They're personally and emotionally attached to the property, so they feel personally rejected. A great communication game plan, well executed, will help you gain a price reduction. A great communication game plan, well executed, will help you extend an expired listing. A great communication game plan, well executed by you, motivates the seller to refer you. And an outgoing phone call, you've probably seen this in previous trainings, takes about 2 minutes if you do it correctly. Same thing with buyer communication. Incoming call is a long process. Even if the incoming call is only 2 or 3 minutes long, you lose your concentration, you stop what you're doing, you have to answer the call, deal with it, get back into sync. Where was I? What I was doing? What's my action list? It's downtime. So when we're marketing to FSBOs, expireds, our database, etc., it's all outbound work. I don't want people calling me as a real estate agent. It interrupts my flow. I call my sellers, I call my buyers, or I have my assistants do it. When I'm doing my outbound prospecting, I don't leave voicemails except unless I know them well. And the voicemail might be like this: "Hi David, it's Scott. I was going to talk to you about dropping by your house tomorrow afternoon. I'll get back to you later." I don't want you calling me back, because you're going to interrupt me. If I have 15 people calling me during the day, right, it just screws up my outbound mind flow. Same thing with managing sellers. You're going to schedule a call weekly to call them. Donald Epstein, why am I showing you this? It's really weird. I'll show you why in a minute. Wrote this really amazing book. And I actually worked on a project with him. He's from Colorado. What Dr. Epstein discovered is that the stages of the human body healing, when you have a cut, if you were an MD, you would understand it. It heals, it scabs, it swells, all of that. The human body has stages of healing, so do human emotions. And what he recognized in treating his patients is that he started to see distinct stages of emotional healing, traumatic loss, etc., and found them to be distinct, and then started treating them with some very interesting ways of chiropractic that actually brought them through stages fast. Your sellers have that same process going on with selling their house to a limited degree. Their house doesn't sell quickly, they start to suffer. Something's wrong. Sometimes they go into denial, right? They go into denial. They tend to blame the listing agent. These are early stages of healing. When you study his work and others, they get stuck in a perspective, and then eventually they'll regroup. So it's beneficial that you have a little bit of psychological knowledge about how to manage sellers emotionally because they go through these stages in letting go of their house, blaming the buyer, etc. They're in denial. What's a common denial state of a seller? My house is worth $1.2 million, but the market's telling me it's only worth $950,000. I just don't believe it. What is that? It's denial. I show them the data. The buyers were giving all the great feedback. They have to go through this stage of denial. Then they're going to blame you for not doing the correct marketing, and then they get stuck. And then eventually, we'll both help them reclaim their power, do the price reduction, and get the house sold. So the whole point of this is you can actually, if you kind of think about what goes on of a listing that starts to stagnate, they go through these swings, these emotions, and almost like stages. So how do you interpret this? Suffering, home is not being shown, or there's no offers. The seller distributes signals that they're hurt and angry, they blame you. This is our price. Yeah, it's the same model, but ours has a better kitchen view, nicer paint, etc. Typical type seller reaction. And you need to regroup as their partner and help them make an intelligent decision. So, what's your game plan in this whole scenario? Is when they're suffering, you empathize with them, you feel their suffering, and you give them quick feedback that it's going to be okay. I understand this hurts. I understand it's not what we want, but we're going to make it okay. When they're in denial, that frequent communication is going to give them a little bit of pain slowly, not all at once. When they get frequent feedback in your system, we're getting price rejection, it starts to sink in. Instead of all at the end, they fire you as the listing agent. And you can avoid being blamed with this game plan. Okay, moving on. The overpriced listing death spiral that we all want to avoid. Oftentimes, the listing agent is in denial. You need to be really good with your data to know what the price is, what the price should be. In the listing presentation, sometimes you're going to have a point where you've got to make a decision. You can't get the listing at the price you want. So we're now on an upswing market again in California. I would suggest you err on taking listings, even if they're high priced, but set them up for a price reduction in your communication with the seller. But don't be in denial as to what the real numbers are. You need to be the expert. In an overpriced listing, anger starts to grow in the seller. The seller will tend to start telling you how to do your job. Oftentimes the agent then checks out. The seller's not selling, right? You just don't want to talk to them. You start avoiding the seller. The listing expires. The seller hates the agent, right? This is a typical death spiral because the agent doesn't know how to manage their seller, and this ends up being your listing, crashing and burning. So let's talk about how a superstar manages listings. They manage a listing feedback system. They use a showing log religiously. They choose a day in a week to call all their sellers. It's Friday morning is a really good time to choose, by the way. Therefore, sellers anticipate your call and they know their lingering questions will be answered soon. Don't wing it, be smart, and use dialogues that work, and we have some of those today. Provide the seller with a new CMA every 3 weeks or some kind of update of market activity that's relevant, and skillfully sets up a price reduction with accurate market data so it's not a surprise to the seller. When you really refine this system, I have found that sellers will say something like this: Scott, we've sold 5 houses. No agent has ever kept me on the same page so we know what's going on with the market and feedback with every showings, right? And what they're saying is, I love being your partner, because most agents just disappear on their listings. So, in the Online Resource Center, in your Forms and Docs folder, you'll see an Excel spreadsheet called the Showing Log. Very simple Excel spreadsheet. buyer number, show date, comments, agents. Obviously, you would spread out these cells when you start filling them in. Who is the agent? Who are they from? Their office and their cell number and agent email. That's all you really need. Now, you've noticed in Salesforce.com, we're starting to be able to do a lot of this right in your deal module for each listing. Here's the key thing. Number your buyers. Many times you won't know the buyer's name. You'll have, if your listing is call seller for appointment, there's a key box. I know that John Smith just showed my listing on Elm Street today. I have no idea what his buyer's name is. If they called me, I'd try to do some pre-qualification, but oftentimes they're not going to tell you their buyer's name. I have this couple from Des Moines. They're really great people. They're pre-qualified, etc. I'd like to show your listing. Great, go show them, right? Your listing agent. But I don't know their name. But I know it's what number they are. So they might be buyer number 9 that was shown today at 2 o'clock, right? Today's date. I'm going to get their feedback either this afternoon or tomorrow. I know who was the agent. I know who the agent was. If they don't call you, you get this information on your key box log. Is everybody with me? So when you have a lot of listings that have key boxes, this is all computerized. You go on to Supra and you can see John Smith from Remax showed my listing at 2 o'clock today. Logged into the key box, logged out. I don't know his buyer's name, but I know he was the 9th showing on this listing. And then we're going to contact John and get feedback. So I log this in Excel. So what I'm going to do with this data is buyer number 1 thought the house was overpriced. Buyer number 3 didn't like the backyard. Buyer number 9 thought the house was overpriced. Buyer number 6 thought, not really sure, price might be a bit high. I'm going to incrementally feed this data to the seller, skillfully. I'm setting up a price reduction. So once your marketing's done, you have a listing, the only thing that matters is the price. That's what sells the house. Once you're all done, you got the great flyer, the website, all your stuff is going, it's syndicated all over the world, it's price, it's showings and price. I don't know if everybody know who Mike Ferry is, the coach, right? This goes back in the late 80s. I was with a conference with Mike, and he made a great comment I thought was real. It really, at the time, I took a little offense to it, but I understand his logic. He said, a dog can sell a house. Once it's on the MLS, the listing agent's irrelevant. What he meant by that is once it's on the MLS, it's price. Because the buyers don't care who the listing agent is. It's, do they want to buy the house? What they'll pay for it. So price is really critical. Buyer's agent. You want to upload your buyer's agents into your CRM and keep notes. Why is you're going to start building a database of agents who are going to be showing your different listings. You may be showing them, and you want to get to know them. And you want to make them advocates for future deals. So you'll upload them as a contact as well in your CRM. Here's something nobody does. When you open escrow, send the buyer's agent a personal thank you note. Because they can make your life miserable during an escrow, right? So if you start to align with them, the inspection's coming, we might have loan problems, we may have contingency sales. You often have to solve their problems as a listing agent to get your deal to close. So you want to make them advocates in the transaction. After the showing, even if I don't talk to the buyer's agent and I go on my the website and see the showing activity, I'll see it's John Smith from Remax. I'm going to be able to get his email address, right? If nothing else, you go in the MLS, look up the agent, you can see his email address and their contact information. So the first thing after, say he shows the house at 2 o'clock, 3:30, 3 or 4, I come back into my office, one of my tasks today is going to be emailing John Smith. How'd the showing go? Thank you for showing 123 Elm Street on Tuesday. Include the address because they get confused if they're showing 15 houses today. Don't let that be you. They'll get confused as to which was your listing. Did your buyers like the property? Are you making an offer? Is there anything else we can do to encourage an offer? Is there anything the seller should do to improve the saleability of the home? What do you think of the price? What's the buyer think of the price? Key questions to your showing agents.
Got a typo there, the last one. What did your buyer this of the price?
What did your buyer think of the price? This should say think of the price. So, some agents will respond to this email. It makes your job easier. Now I've got the data, put it in my showing log. I've got my feedback. I also know if there's a deal pending here, obviously, right? Many buyer's agents won't take the time to answer your email, unfortunately. Some will, some won't. Then you got to call them. Once you get rolling and you have an assistant, this is the work your assistant does. Just be diligent to get feedback. Email is fast. You can set this up as an email signature in like Outlook or in Apple. These questions are signature. John Smith, bang, here it is. Here's my signature. Fill in the blanks. Boom, mail's gone. Email's gone. It's fast. It's easy. It's systematized. Day goes by, no email, call John. Get the feedback. Email buyer's agents the day of the showing. If they don't respond, call them, fill in the showing log, and number the buyers. Let's go back to number the buyers. Here's why. Sometimes you don't know their name. The seller usually doesn't know their name. But you'll be referring to, buyer 8. Remember, the buyer 8, Mrs. Smith, is the one we showed the house to last week. They were relocating from Des Moines. I don't know if you met them or not. They want a second showing. So I'm going to log the second showing. So what happens with the sellers is they know buyer 1 is out, buyer 2 is out, buyer 4 is out, buyer 5 is thinking about it, buyer 8's the second showing. We're going to constantly refer to the buyers by number to the seller. It keeps you organized. The sellers get it, because what happens is when I say buyer 16, what's the seller know? We've had 16 showings, right? It's a key piece of information to the seller that helps me set up a price reduction. You know, David and Denise, we've had 16 showings on this house, and one thing I've learned in my business, after 16 showings, if I haven't sold this house, price is a problem. There may be other problems that the feedback indicates, but it's usually price. Now it's time we need to have a talk. Remember when I took the listing, I said we're going to give it 30 days, and if we get enough feedback, we need to have an intelligent discussion. I'm setting up a price reduction. Because price reductions in price is how you make your money as a listing agent. The price drives the sales. And if you manage your sellers skillfully and do this with a system, they partner with you. They're getting the incremental feedback that the property is overpriced. And it's not your fault. Let's talk about some seller communication dialogue. Hi Denise, it's Scott with my weekly update. Did you have a chance to review the showing log? Let me stop you right there. What I'm doing is I'm emailing the seller selectively throughout the week. I might email them feedback on buyer 4, 5, and 6, then maybe 7 and 8, right? So they're going to get some email, some quick summary feedback. And if you recall what Stephanie brought up in the CRM training is you don't just send them the showing log. You don't want to send them all the information in there, for one thing. You don't want them calling buyer agents, which sometimes they'll do. If you send them that information, you send them buyer 2, maybe a little bit of blurb, here's their comments. Buyer 3, a little bit of information about them. If you have them, here's their comments. It was shown on Tuesday or Wednesday. So they start to see this information in. And then what you do is you summarize it on your Friday call. Step through the buyers by number. I want you to know, Denise, that getting your home sold is a priority of mine. Here's what we're doing. We've done this, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. Is there anything we've not covered today? I'm going over the feedback. I'm confident that my marketing is working and generating interest, and I also want you to know that I'm proactive for you on a daily basis. I want that offer soon, and unless something breaks, I'll call you immediately or update. If something breaks, I will call you immediately for an update or get back to you next week. So it's just a very short, to the point dialogue that you'll get used to. You'll end up putting this in your own words. And the point of this is you're never out of contact with your seller too long. You do this even if there's no showings. Unfortunately, even if there's no showings, you call them on Friday. Here's what we're doing to get showings. I'm confident it's going to, there's activity in the area. You might do some market summary, etc. You stay in touch with them. because a little bit of bad news once a week has no comparison to no contact for 6 weeks because they hate you by then. You're not doing your job in their mind, right? You got to stay in touch. If they want to vent, you let them vent. You get it out. You end up being partners at the end of the conversation. Secret to the showing log. Price feedback from the marketplace gives seller incremental pain. Incremental pain. And it sets up the price adjustment. It won't be a big surprise. And as I've said many times, like a broken record, at this point in the listing's life, it's the price that drives the offers. So let's do a little price adjustment role play. Hello, Monica. How are you today? It's Scott. She says, hi, Scott. Not bad. Glad to hear that. Wanted to check in with you and update you on our progress of getting your home sold. And I want you to know that getting an offer is a daily priority for me, and I'm on it. Hopefully you've been following the feedback, but please let me summarize it for you. As you know, I have a complete feedback system, so we can get quick and really accurate market feedback. Buyer 2, 4, 5, and 6, and 8 indicated our price was on the high side. And I might say, as you've seen by the emails in our previous discussions. So what the market's telling us, Monica, is that we may be a bit overpriced. When that happens, we're helping our competition get sold. And that's other similar homes on the market. That's our competition. If we correct the price a bit, we'll be more competitive and encourage an offer. Does that make sense? Then I wait. So sometimes there's a lot of silence here, right? But this is not a surprise to Monica because of my system. She kind of knew this conversation was coming. Sometimes in a listing presentation, after we've signed the listing, I will remind Monica, now, you know, Monica, I think really the market's telling us we're really at 950 or $1 million even in terms of market. I'm going to do my best to get you that $1.1 million. But if the market gives us a lot of feedback, we may have to make a price adjustment down the road here, 30 or 60 days out. We're on the same page, right? This is my listing day conversation. So I may reference that. If you recall, Monica, when we sat down together and we got the home listed, we talked about this feedback might indicate we need to make a change. So I'm reminding them, doing it skillfully, so there's no big surprise here. And then after I make my presentation here on the phone, I shut up because I want to hear where they are. How much is a bit, right? Based on the real market feedback, it seems we should correct it to 3.7 million. That much? I'm not sure we want to do that. Well, we're at 4 million now, and as you can see, we're getting a lot of resistance. I think 3.7 is right, and it should increase showings, of course. We can try to 3.8 for a couple of weeks and see what the market tells us, and go to 3.7 if we have to after 2 or 3 weeks. Does that make more sense to you? Right? So I want to get a big price reduction because I know that's going to drive the sales. Sometimes you have to do it incrementally, obviously. I just hate helping your competition get sold before us. What if a buyer's lowered our price and offers us even a lesser amount for our home? Sometimes that happens, of course, but that's what I do. That is, negotiate hard to get top dollar out of every buyer that we have. We could counter them. Right now we're sending too many buyers away, I'm afraid. So why don't we make a price adjustment to 3.8? Hopefully that'll get us closer to their motive for moving. So in your price adjustment dialogue, this is really critical. The key to dealing with sellers is their motive for moving. Their motive for moving. Why are they moving? Not why are they selling. That's different. Why are they moving? Downsizing, etc. I want to phrase this as accurately as possible and wrap it into my price reduction. And hopefully that will get us closer to Seattle and that house by the bay that I know you have in escrow. Right? That's how I phrase it. Okay, let's do it. Great. I think it's the right decision. I'll send you an email to confirm. So you always want to send that email confirmation to the seller confirming the price reduction so you have a paper trail. Some brokers say you've got to get them to sign it and all that. Frankly, I never bothered with that. It was just more busy work, and I hate paperwork. So I would just do it with email confirmation. And if the email should say, as long as we're in agreement here, if not, please let me know. But I'm lowering the price to 3.8. Bang, done. Frustrated seller role play. So frustrated seller role play. Hello, Jack, it's Scott. Wanted to update you on the process of getting your home sold. This should say, yeah. Hi, Scott. Yeah, what is going on exactly? While the marketing is reaching buyers and their agents, showings are not happening fast enough, obviously. Yeah, I mean, here comes Jack. Yeah, I mean, we're really getting worried here. I understand your frustration. I want you to know I'm doing everything I can to drive showings. I'm frustrated too. But here's what I want you to understand about how this process works in the real world. When a home is just a little overpriced, we get showings and no offers. When we don't get showings, the home is really overpriced. It's like this. If you're going to buy a new Chevy pickup and one dealer had it in the Sunday Auto section for $30,000, the other dealer had the same pickup for $35,000, which one would you go see? The dealer at $35,000 would not even know we would exist. And you can, plug in your metaphor here, whatever you want. The key point here is the dealer would never even know we exist as a buyer. There's buyers out there that are buying properties very similar to yours. We don't even know they exist because we're just so overpriced. So there's buyers out there right now that are just ignoring us. Does that make sense? Remember, however, this is a changed market. In recent years, we've seen historically high prices, but the current market is adjusting us back to a more normal market, and that may impact you too. We need to make a price adjustment to attract buyers to at least starting to see your home. What kind of price adjustment? So now we're in the price adjustment mindset. Very similar dialogue. We're at 4 million, let's go to 3.7, try it for 3.8. Same thing. So you follow up with a confirming price change, keep a hard copy of the email in the file. So even though you've got it in your computer, print out that thread or that email of your price adjustment confirmation so you have it in a hard copy in your listing file in case there's any dispute later, which there probably never should be, and then upload that in the Dropbox folder. Does everybody know what that means?
I'm not sure about what is that.
Okay. When you take a list, when you do a deal, you have to send us a blue file, right? And we create a Dropbox folder and share it with you. When it goes into escrow, your TC essentially will start managing that Dropbox folder. So you have access to it, I have access to it, Padgett does, the TC does. Anytime you do a deal, buyer deal, escrow, listing, lease deal, etc., you create a blue file, send that to us. The blue file has all the stakeholders' names on it. It's an Excel spreadsheet you fill out, email it to us, save it as the property address. So it might be blue file 123 Elm Street, email that to us. Once we get the Dropbox or the blue file, we set up a Dropbox folder and share that with you, and that becomes our universal digital storage place for your docs. Make sense? Second price adjustment. Don't do it over the phone. Schedule a time. Go see them. Do it in person. Treat it like a listing appointment because you've got to resell yourself and do a full CMA. Here's our action list. Set up the feedback system for your listings. Even though we've all migrated to Salesforce and we can document them in as a task for your listings, I would still, at least for the time being, maintain an Excel file. Practice your price reduction dialogues before you use them with your sellers. That's a key thing, is at least spend a little time with, even if it's with your spouse or a significant other or a mirror, or call your own cell phone and record it as a voicemail and listen to it back. Don't use these dialogues for the first time in the real world because they're going to be rough in the beginning. Practice them. Call listings that have not been reduced in the past 30 days, negotiate a price reduction. Send email invitations to your business mixer. Again, this is training 11 out of 15. So for those of you that are out of sync, this was an earlier training on bonding with unexpected extras about how to do a business mixer. Maintain and increase your daily connections to meet your KR goals, and keep up calls, your personal notes, and they pay off.